Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about the whole Caitlyn and Tyler mess that has been happening online. If you don't know, Caitlyn and Tyler from Teen Mom were blocked and ghosted from the adoptive parents of Carly. So recently what had happened was it was the usual where Caitlyn and Tyler wanted to spend more time with Carly. They wanted to set up a visit for the year, and Teresa had said no. She just said, I don't think it's going to be able to happen this year. And usually what happens is every time they say no, which I understand, they feel some type of way, of course, right? Like that's very normal. But what tends to happen, especially with Tyler, is he gets angry and then he lashes out either on social media or whatever the case may be, like on the show. And then Caitlyn also tends to do the same type of deal. And that is kind of where their problems start. So recently, Caitlyn went online on Instagram and, she says she wasn't making digs to Brandon and Teresa, but she definitely was saying like, I don't know how you say you care, but then you don't care because you're not letting us see them. And I think the thing that Caitlyn and Tyler are missing here is that at the end of the day, they signed their rights over, right? Brandon and Teresa truly do hold the power when it comes to visitations and gifts and things like that. And they also did recently, well, not recently, but they also, I think in the last few years, did realize that their agreement wasn't really anything, wasn't a legal document. The only thing legally binding in that document is that Brandon and Teresa do hold the power and control over Carly because they're their legal guardians, type of deal. So everything else, there was things written of like Brandon and Teresa agreed to allow Caitlyn and Tyler to send gifts twice a year and visit twice a year. But they don't legally have to. If they say no, it's not like Caitlyn and Tyler can go after them legally for going against their agreement because it's not legally binding. So that is definitely, I feel for them there. I feel empathetic for Caitlyn and Tyler there because they were kids, man. Like they were like 13, 14? I don't even remember. I don't even think they were 16. I think they were the youngest couple that had a baby from Teen Mom. And so when you're a kid and you're going through all those emotions and that pregnancy and everything that, if you've been watching the show, they don't come from great family situations and we're dealing with a lot, right? So I think there's just too much going on for someone so young, a child essentially. And it's unfortunate, and I'm empathetic to them there because they didn't really know. They're like, hey, we signed a paper that says they have to do this and we have to do that, and we're happy with this. And it is a open adoption. So that is also what they always wanted. They wanted communication back and forth at least a couple times a year. But that's not a legal document, which is the tricky part. And I think if they had known that back then, they would have done something to make it legal, or, gone a different route. So I do empathize with them there for that. Now, given the situation, it does really make me sad because they've always had such a really good relationship with Brandon and Teresa. Brandon and Teresa came to Caitlyn and Tyler's wedding, to birthday parties, to the family events. And so they really were like a big family, but a family with serious boundaries. Again, because, Caitlyn and Tyler are not the legal guardians of Carly, and really they hold the power when it comes to Brandon and Teresa. So what's been going on lately? What's been going on lately is Caitlyn and Tyler are getting more and more angry when Brandon and Teresa are trying to set boundaries, because Carly now, at this point, I believe she's 15, which is insane because I've been watching the show since I was 16, and I feel old. Let's move on. So now that she's 15, I'm sure it's a tough age. You're a teenager. I'm sure certain emotions are coming up, certain situations are coming up that they're talking about at home. And Carly has always known, from my understanding, the situation of like who Caitlin and Tyler are. She knows who Nova is. She knows that's her sister and things like that. But I'm sure as a 15-year-old, you're going to be a little confused and start to ask deeper questions. And maybe that's why Brandon and Teresa are setting that boundary. And Caitlin and Tyler are trying to be way too pushy. They want to be way too involved. And I don't blame Brandon and Teresa for being like, hold on, give us a minute, let us handle this type of situation. And the thing is, I don't even know if that's the case, right? I don't even know, like, I just threw that scenario out because just as an assumption. They could just be like, leave us alone for a little bit. And they have the legal right to do that, and I do think, though, that Brandon and Teresa, if they're not able to set up a physical visit, maybe just a quick text update of like, hey, Carly did this in school, or she won this award, or she got this grade compared to last year, just something like that, I think would make Caitlin and Tyler happy. So it doesn't take much, but now that I said that out loud, it would make them happy, but I also know that they would probably keep pushing, right? For that in-person visit and that quality time together, which I can understand. But what tends to happen is Brandon and Teresa say no, and then they lash out. And lately what it has been is lashing out on social media. So with the whole social media thing, I think it shouldn't be a surprise to Caitlin and Tyler. And don't get me wrong, they're my favorite couple on the show. But when it comes to this situation, I'm not agreeing with how they're handling it, because at the end of the day, you should be thinking about Carly. And for them, they think they're thinking about Carly because they're like, hey, we don't want her to think that we're not coming around because of us. We want her to know that it's them and not us, type of thing, which I could understand that fear or that doubt. And we're like, we're going to do everything in our power and use our platform to get to Carly to let her know. But to me, it's like you're doing damage by doing that. You're not helping the situation. You're going against Brandon and Teresa because they had always been skeptical because Caitlin and Tyler are on a TV show, they're public figures, and they always wanted to keep everything private. So every time you turn on that camera and you post something or whatever it is about Carly, you're going against their wishes, right? So at the end of the day, you have to play their game. You have to comply with them because they're the ones who have the power over Carly and over the visits. So you kind of want to play nice with them, right? To me. And the other thing is they're kind of acting as if this is like a co-parenting situation, which it is not a co-parenting situation. You gave up your rights to Carly when you were 13 or 14 years old. That's just the reality of it. That's just what it is. And there's no going back to that now, right? So for me, there has to be some acceptance there of like, they don't owe you anything. Whether it be right or wrong, they don't owe you that. And of course, would it be nice if you can go back to the way it was? Sure. Of course, that's the best case scenario. But for whatever reason, they've decided to put up a boundary and take a step back, and there's nothing you guys can do about it. So to go on social media and just assume that, they're withholding Carly from you, that's not going to help the situation. Carly also is being raised by Brandon and Teresa. To Carly, Brandon and Teresa are her parents, because they are. And the thing is, if that video does get to Carly or someone at school is like, hey, are these your adoptive parents? Like, aren't these Caitlin and Tyler from Teen Mom, which is your biological parents? A, that's really embarrassing for a 15-year-old to have to deal with at school. B, I know if I saw somebody and I was in that situation talking shit about my parents, because sorry, Caitlin and Tyler, you're trying to say that you're not bashing them online. You are. You're making digs. Yeah, you're not calling them names, blah blah blah, but you're sending a negative light to them because they're withholding Carly from you, and that's not cool. It just isn't, and it's not going to help your situation. If I saw anybody talking shit about my parents online, whether it be my biological parents or not, I'm going to be like, it's not going to make me want to talk to you, you know? So, and maybe it is the case where Carly does want to see Caitlin and Tyler, but Brandon and Teresa have made, excuse me, that decision to take a step back for now. Sorry. So it's like that's it just is what it is. And they don't owe you the reasoning why, because, you know, that's another thing Caitlin and Tyler have been saying online is, oh, well, if they just told us why, like maybe we would understand more. It's like, but they don't owe you that. And it could get more complicated because when someone is trying to tell you why, I'm deciding to take a step back and be a little bit more distant. If Brandon and Teresa, for example, were to be like, hey, we're taking a step back. She's at a sensitive age. She's going to start to ask questions. We want to be able to handle that and take a step back from the visits for a little bit. That just wouldn't go well with Caitlin and Tyler. Like, it would go well in the sense of like, okay, we understand, but I don't think they would just leave it at that. Be like, oh, let us help and let us answer some of these questions. And it's like, no, that's not your place. You got to stay in your lane, you know? And so when you try to explain why and things like that, or over explain, it just gets a little tricky and a little messy. So I could see why Brandon and Teresa are taking a step back. Honestly, I think y'all got blocked because you were being way too messy online. You were coming for them way too hard. I understand what you're trying to do. You're trying to use your platform to talk about adoption and everything like that. You can do it in a very different way than you're going about it. You know, I think at one point Tyler even stated that he would have chosen different adoptive parents. Like, it's so unnecessary. It's not going to help. At this point, I would just say, leave it alone. She's 15 years old. In about 3 years, she can come to you if that's what she chooses. And who are you going to blame then? Like, if she doesn't want to talk to you guys, or she doesn't want to have a relationship, there's nobody that you can blame. You know what I mean? And I'm sure they would take that, it's not going to be easy for them, but if that is the case, like, it is what it is. There's no blame for Brandon and Teresa. So you need to chill with coming for Brandon and Teresa. On the flip side, do I think they should have, let Caitlin and Tyler know how they feel before blocking? Maybe like a simple warning of like, hey, if you guys continue to go online, I'm gonna have to withdraw contact because that has always been against my wish, right? But again, like, I feel like they have vocalized to them over the years, if you've been watching since day one, that they don't like the public stuff, the social media stuff. And there was always pushback on that. So I think they just got to a point where it's like, enough is enough, which is unfortunate. I do think there could have been maybe one serious warning before going to the blocking, because that is pretty harsh and is going to freak everybody out. And that's exactly what happened. So let me know what you guys think in the comments about the situation. It definitely was a messy one. Thank you so much for watching.